I want to go back to something Joe said, only to move the conversation along because we did say we're going to talk about it. And since Joe kindly just mentioned it, we're going to segue into it. The issue on the statues. I was watching Good Morning Britain yesterday, and I don't know, it was a difficult watch. At first, I was watching one of the presenters in particular, and he just looked angry. But you know, when you're angry, but you're trying to compose yourself and you're keeping it professional because you want to appear as if you're objective. And this is why sometimes I think we need to create a room for people to really express themselves. And I'm not saying you should be vulgar. I'm not saying you should be disrespectful. But if you're trying to control the narrative too much or control people's reaction too much, I think we make the issue worse. So he's obviously trying to compose himself, but you can tell he's seething. And I felt like, oh, I wonder why he's angry. And I'm thinking, oh, obviously he's a bit peed off because it's not just the statue, and now it's gone on to some of the movies they hold dear. It's the emotion of, or history's been ruined, or stories being reshaped. And I feel like, wow, you're angry. I get it. I get it. I get it. And I'm thinking, I'm glad you're angry because I can empathize with that because that's how we felt. Or story, or history, the things that we've held there. Whatever you want for yourself, you have to be able to step out of yourself and understand that that person also wants for themselves. Those people marching, those people protesting, these people who are tweeting, and those people who are doing stuff on social media, they are also angry. Why is your anger more valid than theirs? Why is your history more valid than theirs? Why is your story more significant than theirs? You have pillaged people's countries, and we've had to adjust to that. But the minute you feel as if yours is being tarnished, you have that reaction. And honestly, at the start, I really genuinely felt sad for him. I'm feeling, oh my God, like it must be so unsettling for you. And then I said to myself, hold on 1 minute. Why am I being drawn into your feeling? Why am I thinking about you? Why am I feeling saddened by your experience when I've lived through this my whole life? And I think it's good that we feel the way we feel. And this is why I think we have to create a space for people to dialogue. Because I have to be able to see what you're saying and what you're feeling, and that has to be real for me. I should really empathize. And the empathy I extend to you, you should be able to do it for me. Because we're both saddened by the same thing. It's just that we're at odds with each other. The same way you're angered and you want something done, and when is this going to stop and how far it's going to go, that's been their journey. It's just that you're at the start of this journey where you feel, I'm trying not to swear. My mom said I said shit in the last video. and that was swearing enough, and I don't have the technology to bleep myself out. I'm going to pause when I feel like I want to swear.
Stephanie, you just said it again.
Oh gosh, never mind. I'll try and cut that bit out. The difference is just a matter of where we are in the journey. That feeling of the rug being pulled from underneath you and you not knowing how far back this is going to go and how much of your story is going to be affected, that's the start of the journey. And you have to look just in front of you at the people that you're so angry with. They're at the end of their journey. They've walked through that. They've been where you've been and feel like they couldn't talk. At least you have your whole life to kind of buffer you a little bit. You still get to sit on the TV and be angry. All stories were hidden and untold. These people at the end of their journey, and they're fed up and they're frustrated, and you're at the start. Yes, we're both angry. We're at different places in our anger. I need to sympathize with you. I need to look back and go, Steph, you know what that was like. And you need to understand what he's feeling. And he needs to look in front and go, oh, so this is what it must have been like. On steroids, because this is just a little statue, but you still have your life. The world is set up and structured around accommodating your needs. Whereas for us, it's 10 times worse. Anyways, the statues. Do you think by taking down the statues and by removing the statues or removing some of these programs, do you think we're erasing history?
Go on, Mark.
I'd say no. Short answer. Because there's been a lot said about, you know, the removal of statues, and obviously today's events, there's been the statue defenders, and this is going to be something that's going to rumble onwards and keep going. The statues are erected to commemorate and remember and celebrate. That's their purpose. They're not educational. And I listened to something the other day, and it was, someone had said, you know, I'm a bit like Steph, I'm a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to social media, but the odd time that I go on Facebook, I saw something, and someone had said, there was a debate going, and it was really raging. There was this guy talking about, if that's the logic that you're using, pulling down statues, then you should pull down guys in St. Thomas's Hospital, because he was involved in slaving. And this person was sort of saying, you know, statues are there to commemorate, a hospital is there to care. It would be stupid to pull down a hospital on this basis. Mm-hmm. If these statues are rehomed in a museum, then they can still be educational. Yeah. That's fine. But statues aren't used to teach. And there was another thing that I saw that someone had said, you know, we use books and the internet to teach our children. And the reason that these statues are being pulled down by these young people is because they've read these books. Mm-hmm. And they're open to learning about it, and that's why it's happening. So for me, no, I don't feel like it's an erasing of history. I don't feel that way at all. I think, you know, they're there purely to commemorate. And if we have these statues of, for whatever reason it might be, whether it was a person that supported Hitler or was involved in the slave trade, whatever it is, if we have them there and they are lurking around in the background, and I think it was the Mayor of Bristol who was talking about this, and he sort of said that the fact that it's been there, that statue has been up there for so long, and so many schools in Bristol, so many, you can't avoid Colston's name. It's there when there are so many streets, schools, buildings, and it's this kind of background noise, and it's that covert racism again. It's that lingering background noise, and it's always going to be present. And until you remove that and there's action taken on that, that will always be the case. So they have to be removed. You can't have a commemoration if we're going to do this. If change is going to happen, and we're going to keep the conversation moving forward, how can you have a commemorative statue of someone that did awful things? So for me, no.
I think as well with the statue, when you said about putting them in the museums, there were a collection of like Black Lives Matters, like placards and things that were collected with that statue. And I think when that goes in the museum, it was said that it would go alongside the placards, because it wouldn't be about sort of teaching about him, it would be teaching about why the statue was taken down. And again, that's, you know, part of the movement of change. With the TV programs, I think it's quite interesting because, you know, I think a lot of people, you know, just from hearing conversations are like, oh, you know, it's getting too much. Mm-hmm. Because again, ignorance is bliss. But I think it's important to reflect and think, why was that offensive? Yes, I didn't find it offensive. I found it funny. But, you know, some people were triggered and some people were offended by it. And I think it's not just, you know, it's taken down and, oh, I don't have that bit of entertainment. But why was it taken down? You know, why was it offensive to some people? Because things were used in you know, for humour, and made a lot of people laugh, but they were derogatory to some people. And yeah, I think if you're talking about, you know, making a change and this being the difference, you know, this time it is going to be different, then these things need to be done, because you need to sort of understand why they're now being taken away. And I know I see a lot of people apologising for, you know, things that they've done in the past, which to me is good, because you are then, it shows that you are reflecting on your actions and now learning about why, you know, that would have been offensive and why that probably wasn't the best move. So no, I don't think it's a problem. I think carry on.
Before I get to Joe, if he wants to come in, I just want to make a little point. Even some of the apologies that you see, and I cannot speak for the Black community, because this is what I'm trying to move away from, feeling as if I need to talk for an entire group of people. I'm talking for myself and my house.
Mm-hmm.
Even the apologies, I just think it's your bottom line. I can't judge someone's intent, and I really want it to be true.
Yeah.
But some of these people, I'm thinking, you've heard these issues before, but now it looks as if things are going to be different this time. So you need to make sure that you cover your bases. Anna Wintour made an apology, and I just think, you must not. People have been talking about Vogue for years, about diversity and representation. But I think, it's not just Black people are now offended. It's a lot of young white people that really will affect your bottom line, especially when people don't buy magazines as much. You need to be seen. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying she's not sincere. I'm saying even the timing of these apologies, you need to understand we're seeing them and processing them very differently.
And I think a lot of them are not
very, very true. But I just think you have to understand that we're skeptical.
Yeah. I don't think all of them are genuine. Like, as I said earlier, I think a lot of people are jumping on the trend, but I think some of them are, as you say, I like to believe the best. I hope that, your apologies are because you are being reflective and now you're understanding. But, I completely agree with you. These problems have been around for a long time, and they've been, fought for a long time. And, a lot of them are not genuine, and a lot of them I watch and I'm like, no. But, I'm hoping even some are because of people's reflections, and some people reflecting is better than no one reflecting. But absolutely, I don't want you to think, all apologies, yeah, fantastic, because a lot of people are doing it for the publicity and the trends, and I think, you and a lot of people, most people will see through that, and think, well, now you've issued your apology, what next? I'm not interested in just your video of apology. I'm interested in what you're now doing to be part of that change.
Sorry, I will say, don't get me wrong, I want the apology. I want everyone, I'm very petty. I want everyone to apologize.
Yeah.
Do you know why I want the apology? I have public records to hold you accountable for, and to. Even if you're being pretentious, even if you're worried about your bottom line, your public apology gives me something to pull you back towards. So I want everyone to apologize. Also, when they see the big brands apologize, then everyone now think, okay, if they're doing this, then maybe I need to say something. And this is why it seems so big, because everyone's thinking, okay, how far is this going to go and when is this going to end? Because everyone's talking and it's gaining traction. But anyways, Joe, do you want to comment on the question about statue, and if we remove them or when we remove them, are we now erasing history?
I guess so. I think with the statues, I think similar to what Mark and Emma have said. I think statues should be cause for celebration and commemoration, and and someone like Edward Colston, from his life isn't worthy of that. And I think the fact that he, whatever he may have done, in Bristol, like he says, he's named schools and centres and whatever, that doesn't sort of erase the fact that he was a slave trader, and we shouldn't celebrate that. I think and I think once on social media was if you're more offended at the idea of a statue being pulled down than the idea of 80,000 West Africans being taken from their homes and shipped across the Atlantic, then you might need to reevaluate your your perspectives and your your privileges on that one. I think, and so I think if there are people out there, but again, I suppose again you could make the argument that it could just go back to Churchill. Again, I suppose what I said there kind of goes contrary to what I said before about you can have them separately. So that's again that would be a sort of a further debate. But sort of moving on to sort of like the TV shows and things like that, and sort of the comedy things like Fawlty Towers and Little Britain being removed. It's a tricky one for me, because I've always sort of been an advocate for sort of like the idea that nothing should be off limits for comedy. I think that's always been something that I've held, and then it may have been a sort of a slightly superficial view that the moment that's been challenged now quite strongly, I'm actually realizing that should something that is genuinely offensive be allowed to be sort of held as comedy, especially on on the BBC, and again, but then one thing I saw is, I think particularly with the Fawlty Towers episode that has been removed from, was it UKTV? I think I think it was removed for the racial slurs used by the Major. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think looking back, knowing the joke, I think I found the skit on YouTube yesterday or today, and it's interesting because I think what the joke isn't at the racial minorities which he and the racial slurs that he's using. I think the joke and the humor in that joke comes from the fact that he is being made out to be a bigot, that he is being made out to be, you know, a man whose views and opinions are so outdated and so ghastly that they're almost comical, in that they are so he misjudges the situation so wrong. And that was in the 1970s, and I think that's definitely, I think worth considering, that side of it. You know, I think that, you know, that the subject of the joke in that situation isn't the racism, it's the racist attitudes that are being held, that are being sort of poked fun at and made to be, you know, sort of almost a laughing stock, you know. And how could someone hold those views? That's being made, that is the subject there. And again, I think that's just, it's a really tricky one, I think, because I think, yeah,
that one I think is really hard even for me.
mm-hmm.
And that's the honest truth. And I think I have the same kind of dissonance like Joe of, okay, and I feel like we are more attached to maybe the movies than the statues. The statues seem a bit more distant to us. So it's easy. And I think even just as a nation, it was the same. I think people became more irate when it got to the bit, and especially Fawlty Towers. I think it has this, it's like a national treasure. So people kind of hold it quite dear. But then I think, and I think I'm pausing because I want to make sure I'm saying this right and that it won't be misconstrued. Like Joe, I used to think comedians, and this is going to sound so contradictory, I used to think comedians should have free reign and should not be censored. And I can think of even controversial Black comedians, and I giggle at the joke. But I think it's because those issues didn't affect me. So when they made homosexual jokes or transgender jokes, those issues didn't affect me because I was straight. And I just think, but he's just joking. But now when I look at this issue, it kind of made me think, oh, maybe I need to have a rethink. I'm not telling you that I have a full conclusion. I'm saying for me, and this is me being transparent, I need to go back and think about my views on that issue. Because if it's race, what makes race different from anything else? And if it's offensive to me because this is something I care about, maybe the other things I think are okay, maybe they are not okay. This is very hard. And I'm not going to pretend like it's an easy conversation. I'm not going to sit and pretend like, oh, we're friends and we're going to talk about it, because I get it. Because it kind of throws up my own contradictions that I need to think about. But I do think the statues need to go. I think I don't need to see it to know about it.
What do you think should happen with them, Steph? I
think they, like you, I think they should be put in a museum. I think the fact that you're fighting to keep them, I just think you're fighting to, that's something that should kind of make you sit and kind of think, why do I want? And I don't think you should say it in a critical sense. I think it's really to be reflective, not to kind of be overly critical. Even just to gently ask yourself, why? Why do I want to keep it? Just to explore what that means for you. Why am I more concerned about that? Is it really the statue that's offending me, or the fact that I feel like it's been ripped down? Because for some people, I think they haven't even explored. I think we're sat at home for the most part, and there's lots of emotions just bubbling around for different people. And I think really having that time to sit down can give you that kind of perspective. Maybe it's not the statue you're bothered about. Maybe it's a fear. Maybe you're afraid that your culture and your country as you know it is going to be toppled. And if you can deal with that, then you kind of don't have that emotion muddled between your feelings about your country versus the statue. I think, but all of that comes from one having these kind of conversations. And also having that time with yourself to think, what's bothering me? What's the issue? Anyways, I think that conversation needs to be continued, but I'm just going to move on.